The stars belonged to the Krell Dominion, or so they believed. For 300 years, their warships had crossed the darkness between worlds, planting their flag on planet after planet. 47 star systems bowed to their rule. 47 different species now served the Dominion, whether they wanted to or not. War Master Thexalar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Talon. His 4 eyes scanned the tactical displays with practiced ease. Behind him, junior officers moved quietly between their stations. They knew better than to disturb the War Master when he was thinking. "Another signal, sir," the communications officer reported. Her voice was steady, professional. "Same source as before, the 3rd planet in the system." Thexalar's mandibles clicked together in annoyance. For weeks now, they had been picking up strange transmissions from this backwater system. The signals were primitive, chaotic, radio waves carrying sounds and images, digital chatter that made no sense, the kind of noise that pre-spaceflight civilizations made before they learned to control their emissions. "Ignore it," Thexalar said. "Focus on finding our missing ship." That was the real problem. The science vessel, Explorer 7, had entered this system 2 weeks ago to study an unusual asteroid field. It never reported back. When the Dominion sent search drones, they found nothing. No debris, no distress signals, nothing at all. The High Council had been clear in their orders. Find out what happened to the science vessel. If a primitive species had somehow destroyed it, teach them the price of interfering with the Dominion. If it was some kind of spatial anomaly, document it and move on. Thexalar expected the former. In his 50 years of military service, he had conquered 12 worlds personally. He knew how primitive species thought. They saw advanced technology and got scared. Sometimes they got violent. Sometimes they got lucky and damaged a ship or two. Then the Dominion arrived in force and reminded them why fear was the appropriate response. "Sir, we're approaching the inner system," the navigation officer announced. "The 3rd planet is visible on long-range sensors." Thexalar leaned forward. "What do you see?" The sensor officer's claws danced across her console. "One planet, suitable for carbon-based life. Significant water coverage. Artificial satellites in orbit, but they appear to be communication and observation devices only. No weapons platforms detected. No orbital defense stations. No fleet formations." Thexalar's mandibles clicked again, this time in satisfaction. "And the planetary surface?" "Multiple cities. Significant industrial activity. Radio and electronic emissions consistent with an early spaceflight civilization. They have primitive rockets, satellites, and what appear to be space stations, but nothing capable of system defense." Perfect. Exactly what he expected. A species that had just started reaching beyond their own atmosphere. They probably sent some brave explorers to their outer planets and stumbled across the Krell science vessel. Maybe they attacked it out of fear. Maybe they tried to salvage it for technology. It didn't matter. What mattered was that they had interfered with the Dominion. "Broadcast standard subjugation protocols," Thexalar ordered. "All languages detected in their transmissions. Tell them they now belong to the Krell Dominion. They will surrender all military assets, provide a complete census of their population, and prepare to receive occupation forces." The communications officer worked quickly. "Broadcasting now, sir." Thexalar watched the tactical display. His fleet consisted of 12 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to level a city. The Crimson Talon alone had crews numbering in the thousands. Against a primitive species with no orbital defenses, this was overkill. But the Dominion believed in making examples. When word spread through the galaxy about what happened to species that interfered with Krell interests, others thought twice before causing problems. "Any response to our broadcast?" Thexalar asked after several minutes. "Multiple responses, sir. Most appear confused. Some are attempting to communicate, but their transmissions are disorganized. No official surrender yet." Thexalar expected that too. Primitive species always needed time to understand their situation. Usually, when the Dominion fleet started destroying their satellites and military installations, they came around quickly. "Prepare weapons," he ordered. "Target their largest satellites and—" "Sir!" The sensor officer's voice cut through the bridge with unusual urgency. "Contact! Something is emerging from behind their moon." Thexalar spun toward the main view screen. "Show me." The image shifted, focusing on the planet's single large moon. At first, Thexalar saw nothing. Then the sensors highlighted a massive shape moving out from behind the lunar surface. It was a ship, a single vessel, but it was enormous. "Size comparison," Thexalar demanded, his voice tight. The tactical display overlaid the unknown ship against the crimson Talon. Thexalar felt his blood run cold. The alien vessel was twice the size of his flagship, 3 kilometers of dark metal and sharp angles, moving with deliberate purpose toward the Krell fleet. Its hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making it look like a piece of space itself had torn loose and decided to move. "Full sensor scan!" Thexalar barked. "I want to know everything about that ship." The sensor officer worked frantically. "Sir, the readings, they don't make sense. The power signature is enormous, far beyond anything I've seen before. The hull composition is... I can't identify the materials. Armor density is off the scale. And the weapons... What about the weapons?" The officer's voice shook slightly. "Sir, I'm counting over 300 individual weapon systems, point defense networks, main cannons, missile batteries, energy weapons I can't classify. This ship is armed like an entire fleet." Silence fell across the bridge. Every officer stared at the view screen, watching the impossible vessel approach. Then it broadcast. The message came through in perfect Krell language, the accent flawless. "You have entered human-controlled space and threatened our homeworld. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Thexalar felt rage replace his shock. These primitives dared to threaten him? Threaten the Krell Dominion with a single ship, no matter how large? "All ships," he snarled into the fleet channel. "Open fire! Destroy that vessel!" 12 Krell warships unleashed everything they had. The bridge of the UHSV Indomitable remained calm despite the incoming fire. Admiral Sarah Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the tactical display with cool interest. Around her, the crew worked their stations with quiet efficiency. "Multiple impacts across all shield sections," the defensive systems officer reported. "Plasma torpedoes, kinetic slugs, and directed energy weapons. Standard shield protocols holding at 98%. "Return fire authorization?" the weapons officer asked. His finger hovered over the controls, patient. "Not yet," Chen said. "Let them empty their magazines. I want a complete analysis of their weapons technology before we respond." Meanwhile, on the Crimson Talon, Thexalar watched his fleet's bombardment continue. Plasma torpedoes streaked across the void, their superheated cores bright enough to see with the naked eye. Railgun slugs traveling at tremendous speeds, energy beams that could cut through starship hulls like paper, all of it converged on the human vessel. "Keep firing," Thexalar commanded. "Concentrate fire on their forward sections. Overload whatever shields they have." The bombardment continued for 2 full minutes. Every weapon in the Krell fleet fired until their capacitors needed recharging, enough firepower to destroy a small moon hammered into the human battleship. Then the Krell weapons fell silent, their energy reserves depleted. "Damage assessment," Thexalar demanded. "Tell me we hurt them." The sensor officer stared at her display, her mandibles hanging open in shock. "Sir, the human vessel is undamaged. Their shields are still active, power levels unchanged. They haven't moved at all." Thexalar felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: fear. Cold, crawling fear that started in his gut and spread through his body. The human ship had sat there and absorbed everything they had without even trying to evade, like a mountain enduring a sandstorm. On the Indomitable, Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Analysis complete?" "Yes, Admiral," the tactical officer replied. "Their weapons are advanced but follow predictable patterns. Plasma-based torpedoes with magnetic containment. Kinetic weapons using electromagnetic acceleration. Directed energy weapons in the visible spectrum. Nothing we haven't encountered in our war game simulations." "Good," Chen said. "Broadcast a second warning. Give them one more chance to withdraw." The communications officer nodded and sent the message. It appeared on every Krell ship simultaneously, overriding their own communication channels. "Final warning. Withdraw from human space immediately. This is your last chance to avoid destruction." On the Crimson Talon. Thexalar stared at the message with disbelief. These humans had the arrogance to offer him mercy? After seeing what his fleet could do, they thought one ship could stand against the Dominion? Pride warred with the growing fear in his chest. But Thexalar had not become War Master by backing down from challenges. "Recharge all weapons," he ordered. "Prepare for second bombardment. All ships form attack pattern Crimson 7. We'll flank them and concentrate fire on their engines." The fleet began to maneuver, spreading out to surround the human vessel. If they couldn't overwhelm its forward shields, they would attack from multiple angles simultaneously. Chen watched the Krell fleet reposition. They chose poorly. Weapons free. All batteries. Begin engagement. What happened next would be analyzed by military historians for generations. The Indomitable's main cannons fired first. Magnetic accelerator cannons, each one capable of launching tungsten slugs the size of transport vehicles at 90% of light speed. The projectiles crossed the distance to the nearest Krell warship in less than a second. The Krell shields flickered once, then failed. The slug punched through the hull like it was paper, entering through the bow and exiting through the stern. The warship broke apart, its structure unable to withstand the catastrophic damage. Before the debris had time to scatter, the Indomitable's missile batteries spoke. Hundreds of missiles streaked outward, each one carrying a fusion warhead and its own guidance system. They weaved through space, avoiding the Krell's point defense fire with unnatural precision. The first missiles reached their targets. Fusion explosions bloomed in the darkness, each one bright enough to rival a small star for a fraction of a second. The carefully calculated detonation patterns created overlapping blast waves that stressed the Krell ship's shields beyond their design limits. 3 more warships vanished in balls of nuclear fire. "Cease maneuvering!" Thexalar screamed into the fleet channel. "All ships, emergency jump! Get us out of here!" But the Indomitable wasn't finished. Point defense lasers designed to intercept incoming missiles retargeted to the Krell ships themselves. Dozens of high-energy beams lanced out, each one aimed with computer precision at critical systems. They burned through shield emitters, sensor arrays, and weapon batteries. The Krell ships were being methodically dismantled. One Krell captain, braver or more foolish than the others, charged directly at the human battleship. Perhaps he thought ramming speed would work where weapons had failed. The Indomitable fired a single MAC round at point-blank range. The Krell ship simply ceased to exist, transformed into an expanding cloud of superheated gas and metal fragments. 6 minutes since engagement began, the tactical officer reported calmly. 9 enemy vessels destroyed, 3 attempting to flee. Chen nodded. "Don't let them reach jump distance. Deploy the lances." Deep within the Indomitable, weapons that humanity had spent decades developing powered up. Graviton lances, devices that could manipulate space-time itself within a limited range. They were energy-intensive, difficult to aim, and absolutely devastating. 2 beams of twisted space reached out and touched the fleeing Krell ships. Reality warped around the vessels. Their hulls crumpled inward like paper being crushed by an invisible hand. The ships collapsed into points of infinite density, becoming tiny black holes that existed for a fraction of a second before evaporating in bursts of hawking radiation. Thexalar watched both ships vanish from his sensors. His flagship drifted helplessly, its engines destroyed by laser fire. All around him, alarms screamed. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. Crew members called out damage reports, their voices edged with panic. The human battleship moved closer, its massive bulk filling the view screen. Thexalar understood now. Understood with terrible clarity. They had not encountered a primitive species lucky enough to destroy one science vessel. They had found something far worse. They had found a species that built ships like the Indomitable and called them defensive vessels. The Crimson Talon drifted in the void like a dying animal. Half its hull was torn open to space. Bodies of crew members floated past the view screen, frozen and tumbling slowly. Emergency force fields held atmosphere in the remaining intact sections, but they wouldn't last forever. Thexalar clutched the command chair to keep from floating away. The artificial gravity had failed minutes ago. Around him, his bridge crew clung to their stations, some injured, all terrified. "Engines?" he asked quietly. "Gone, sir," the engineering officer replied. "Main reactors are offline. We're running on emergency power only." "Weapons?" "All batteries destroyed or disabled." "Communications?" "Short range only. The main array was hit." Thexalar closed his eyes. His flagship, the pride of the Dominion fleet, had been reduced to a powerless wreck in less than 10 minutes. Around him, debris clouds marked where 11 other warships had been. Hundreds of his people were dead. Thousands more would die when life support failed on the damaged ships, and that human vessel just floated there watching, waiting. "Sir, we're being hailed," the communications officer said. "They're requesting we prepare for boarding." "Boarding?" Thexalar opened his eyes. "They want prisoners?" "That's what the message says, sir. They want all command staff to gather in the main docking bay. They promise we won't be harmed if we cooperate." Thexalar felt a bitter laugh building in his chest. Won't be harmed? They had just slaughtered his entire fleet, but he supposed the humans had a point. They could have destroyed the Crimson Talon completely. Instead, they had simply crippled it. They wanted something from him. Information, probably. "Order all senior officers to the docking bay," Thexalar said. "We will cooperate. We have no other choice." 20 minutes later, Thexalar stood in the docking bay with what remained of his command staff. 12 officers, all of them bearing injuries. His second-in-command had a broken arm. His tactical officer was bleeding from a head wound. But they stood at attention, trying to maintain some dignity in defeat. The bay's external doors opened. A small human shuttle entered, moving with precise control. It landed gently on the deck, and a ramp extended. Thexalar had never seen a human before. The Dominion's records of this system contained nothing about the species. They had assumed the third planet was inhabited by a pre-spaceflight civilization, barely worth noting. The humans who emerged from the shuttle were smaller than Krell, standing only 2 meters tall compared to the Krell's 3 meters. They wore armored suits painted dark blue with white markings. Each one carried weapons, though they were held at rest positions rather than aimed. One human stepped forward and removed their helmet. Thexalar saw a female face with dark skin and short-cropped hair. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent. "I am Commander Lisa Park, United Humanity Space Navy," she said in perfect Krell. "You will come with us. Admiral Chen wants to speak with you." Thexalar bowed his head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. "I am War Master Thexalar of the Krell Dominion. My officers and I will cooperate." Commander Park nodded. "Good. Follow me." The shuttle ride to the human battleship took only minutes. When they boarded the Indomitable, Thexalar was struck by the sheer size of everything. The corridors were wide enough to march troops through. The ceilings were high. Everything was clean, organized, and clearly built to exacting standards. They passed crew members going about their duties, humans of different sizes and colors, all wearing the same dark blue uniforms. None of them seemed particularly excited about the battle that had just occurred. It was just another day's work. Commander Park led them to a large conference room. Inside, a human female with gray hair and a uniform bearing more insignia waited. Behind her stood 2 more armed guards. "War Master Thex Alar," the woman said. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of this vessel. Please sit." The conference table had been modified with chairs that could accommodate Krell physiology. Thex Alar sat, his officers arranging themselves around him. The humans remained standing. Admiral Chen activated a holographic display above the table. It showed a map of local space, with various star systems marked in different colors. "This is human-controlled space," Chen said, gesturing to a sphere of systems colored blue. 50 light-years in all directions from Earth. We have claimed this territory and defend it absolutely. Thex Alar studied the map. The Dominion's territory was marked in red, much larger than the human sphere. But the human territory was centered on their homeworld, suggesting they had only recently begun expanding outward. "You destroyed a Krell science vessel," Thex Alar said. "The Explorer 7. "Yes," Chen replied without hesitation. "It entered our exclusion zone without permission and refused to leave when warned. We disabled it and took the crew prisoner. They are alive and unharmed. You could have had them back if you had chosen to negotiate instead of invading." "Invading?" Thex Alar felt a spark of his old anger. "We came to investigate the disappearance of our ship. We came to—" "You came with 12 warships and broadcast subjugation demands," Chen interrupted. "Your communications were very clear. You intended to conquer Earth and add humanity to your empire. That was a mistake." She tapped the display, and new information appeared. Technical specifications of the Krell warships, weapon systems, shield technology, power generation, battle tactics. "We have been monitoring your civilization for 5 years, Chen continued. "We know about the Dominion. We know about your 47 conquered systems. We know about your military doctrine and your conquest patterns." Thex Alar stared at the information. It was accurate, all of it. How long had the humans been watching? "Your species has a problem," Chen said. "You have been conquering inferior civilizations for so long that you forgot what real warfare looks like. Your ships are adequate for intimidating primitives. Against a peer opponent, they are inadequate." She brought up new images, footage from the battle, showing Krell weapons bouncing uselessly off human shields, showing human weapons tearing through Krell ships like they were made of paper. "Humanity spent 10,000 years at war with itself," Chen said quietly. "We perfected every form of violence imaginable. We built weapons that could destroy our own world dozens of times over. We developed tactics and strategies refined through millions of conflicts. When we finally unified and reached the stars, we took all that knowledge with us." Another image appeared. A fleet of human warships, dozens of them, all similar in design to the Indomitable. "This is our home defense fleet," Chen said. 73 battleships, 200 cruisers, and over 500 smaller vessels. All of them equipped with technology designed to fight threats we pray we never encounter. The Indomitable is just one ship. We have many more." Thex Alar felt the last of his pride crumble. The Dominion had 12 capital ships in total. The humans had 73 vessels like the one that had destroyed his fleet. "I understand," he said quietly. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Chen studied War Master Thex Alar across the conference table. The Krell officer looked defeated, his 4 eyes dim with exhaustion and shame. Good. She needed him to understand the gravity of his situation. "What we want is very simple," Chen said. We want to be left alone. Humanity claims a 50 light-year exclusion zone around Earth. No Krell vessels will enter this space. No exceptions. No negotiations. Thexalar's mandibles clicked nervously. The High Council will ask questions. They will want to know why I agreed to such terms. They may even refuse. Then you will show them what happened here, Chen interrupted. She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show the battle footage again. You will show them how quickly we destroyed your fleet. You will explain that we were holding back. Holding back? Thexalar looked up sharply. You destroyed 11 warships in minutes. How is that holding back? Chen's expression remained neutral. We used only conventional weapons, War Master. Kinetic rounds, missiles, and energy weapons. We didn't deploy our Nova bombs. We didn't use our antimatter torpedoes. We didn't activate our reality shear weapons. We certainly didn't bring in more ships. She leaned forward, her hands flat on the table. The Indomitable was on routine patrol, alone. No support fleet, no backup. One ship operating at partial combat readiness destroyed your entire invasion force. Do you understand what that means? Thexalar did understand, and the understanding made him feel sick. If one patrol vessel could do this, what could humanity's full military do? Your civilization has a fundamental problem, Chen continued. You've been conquering species that couldn't fight back. Pre-spaceflight civilizations, early space-age cultures with primitive weapons. You refined your tactics against opponents who had no chance of victory. You became complacent. She brought up new data showing Krell military history. Conquest after conquest, each one following the same pattern. Overwhelming force against unprepared opponents. Quick victories, easy subjugation. Humanity's history was different, Chen said. We didn't have alien species to conquer. We only had each other. For thousands of years we fought ourselves. Nation against nation. Ideology against ideology. We invented weapons specifically designed to kill other humans. We developed tactics to counter our own strategies. We built defenses against our own weapons. The display showed images from human history, ancient battles with swords and shields, medieval sieges, industrial-age trench warfare, nuclear explosions. Each image showed humans killing humans with increasing efficiency. We learned every lesson the hard way, Chen said quietly. We learned that overwhelming force isn't always enough. That technology can be countered, that arrogance leads to defeat. We learned because when we failed to learn, we died. Millions of us, sometimes billions. Thexalar stared at the images. His own species had experienced wars, of course, but nothing on this scale. The Krell had unified their homeworld relatively peacefully, then turned their attention outward to conquest. They had never needed to become experts at killing their own kind. When humanity finally reached the stars, Chen continued, we made a decision. We would never be caught unprepared again. Every ship we built was designed with one assumption in mind. Someday, we might encounter something worse than ourselves. Something that wanted to destroy us. We prepared for that day. She gestured at the ceiling, indicating the Indomitable itself. This ship was built to survive an encounter with a peer-level opponent. Its shields can absorb sustained bombardment from weapons we haven't even invented yet. Its armor is layered with materials designed to resist everything from kinetic strikes to energy weapons to exotic physics attacks. Its weapon systems are redundant, over-engineered, and capable of engaging multiple targets across vast distances. And every ship in your fleet is like this? Thexalar asked. The battleships are. The cruisers and destroyers are slightly less capable but still far superior to anything your Dominion fields. We also have specialized vessels, carriers, siege platforms, stealth ships. Our entire military doctrine is built around the assumption that any conflict we enter might be against an opponent as advanced as we are. Chen stood and walked to the view screen, showing Earth floating peacefully in the distance. Your science vessel crew is still alive, War Master, We treated them well. We fed them, provided medical care, and learned their language. We were preparing to return them to you with a polite message explaining that they had violated our territory and asking that it not happen again. She turned back to face him. Then you arrived with an invasion fleet and demanded our surrender. You threatened our homeworld. You gave us no choice but to respond with force. I did not know, Thexalar said quietly. Our records showed only a primitive species, radio transmissions, early satellites. We thought... You thought we would be easy prey, Chen finished. You saw signs of a pre-spaceflight civilization and assumed we were helpless. You didn't consider that a species might develop advanced military technology while keeping a low profile. You didn't think we might be watching you while you ignored us. She returned to her seat. That is another difference between our species, War Master. The Krell announced their presence loudly. You want everyone to know about the Dominion, to fear your power. Humanity prefers to observe first. We sent stealth probes to your territory years ago. We monitored your communications. We studied your technology. We prepared for the possibility that someday you might notice us. Thexalar felt a chill run through him. The humans had been watching the Dominion for years, studying them, and the Krell had never known. How advanced were their sensors, their stealth technology? What else could they do that the Dominion couldn't detect? I will deliver your message, Thexalar said. The High Council will honor your exclusion zone. We want no further conflict with humanity. Good, Chen said. She pressed a control on the table, and a data crystal appeared from a small opening. This contains all the information we've discussed. Battle footage, sensor data, specifications of our weapons. Nothing classified, but enough to make your point. It also contains the location of our territory boundaries and the proper communication protocols if your people ever need to contact us for legitimate reasons. She slid the crystal across the table. You should also know that we've placed monitoring stations at the border of our territory. If any Krell vessel crosses that line, we will know immediately. If they retreat when warned, we'll allow it. If they proceed with hostile intent, they will be destroyed. No exceptions. What about trade? Thexalar asked. Cultural exchange? The Dominion has much to offer. We're not interested, Chen said flatly. Perhaps in the future, when both our species have had time to establish trust. But not now. You came here to conquer us, War Master. That's not easily forgotten. She stood, signaling the meeting was over. Your crew will be transferred back to your flagship. We've made temporary repairs to your life support and engines. You'll have enough power to reach the nearest Krell outpost. Your science vessel crew will be released there. Consider it a gesture of goodwill. Thank you, Admiral, Thexalar said, rising from his chair. He hesitated, then asked the question that had been bothering him. Why show me all this? Why tell me about your capabilities? Wouldn't it be wiser to keep such information secret? Chen smiled slightly. Because information is a weapon too, War Master. I want you to go back to your High Council and tell them everything you've learned. I want them to understand exactly what they would face if they ever decided to challenge humanity. I want them to lose sleep over it. I want every Krell military planner to look at our technology and realize they have no answer for it. She walked him to the door. Fear is an excellent deterrent, War Master. You came here to make us afraid of the Dominion. Instead, you're going home afraid of humanity. You'll spread that fear to your leaders, and they'll make the smart choice. They'll stay away from our territory, and everyone lives. And if they don't make the smart choice? Thexalar asked quietly. Chen's smile faded. Then they'll learn why humanity spent 10,000 years perfecting warfare. And the lesson will be brief, brutal, and final. The Grand Chamber of the Krell Dominion fell silent as War Master Thexalar finished his report. 23 council members sat in their elevated seats, their faces showing various degrees of shock, disbelief, and anger. The holographic display at the center of the chamber showed the frozen image of the human battleship, Indomitable, its dark hull bristling with weapons. High Chancellor Vextor spoke first, his voice carefully controlled. "You are telling us that a single vessel destroyed 11 warships and crippled your flagship in less than 10 minutes. "Yes, High Chancellor," Thexalar replied. He stood in the center of the chamber, still bearing the marks of his defeat. His uniform was torn. Bandages covered injuries that hadn't fully healed. "I have brought the sensor logs. The data crystal from the humans contains additional footage. You can verify every detail." "Play it," Vextor ordered. The holographic display shifted to show the battle from the Crimson Talon's perspective. The Council watched in silence as the human ship emerged from behind Earth's moon. They saw the Krell fleet's bombardment, the weapons fire that would have destroyed any other vessel. Then they saw the human battleship respond. Several Council members made sounds of distress as they watched Krell warships torn apart. The magnetic accelerator rounds moving too fast to see, leaving only destruction in their wake. The fusion missiles dancing through point defense fire. The graviton lances that crushed 2 ships into nothing. When the footage ended, the chamber remained quiet for a long moment. "This is not possible," War Leader Kextar said finally. She was the Dominion's chief military strategist, responsible for planning every conquest for the past 20 years. "No species develops such advanced technology without first being noticed. We have surveys of that entire sector. They showed nothing but a primitive civilization." "They were hiding their capabilities," Thexalar said. "The humans have been monitoring us for years while we ignored them. They placed stealth probes in our territory. They studied our technology, our tactics, our entire military doctrine. They knew everything about us while we knew nothing about them." "Unacceptable!" Counselor Threxall pounded his fist on his seat's armrest. "This is a threat to the entire Dominion. We must mobilize our full fleet and eliminate these humans before they become a greater danger." Several other council members voiced agreement. The chamber filled with angry voices calling for war, for revenge, for the destruction of humanity. High Chancellor Vextor raised one hand, and silence fell again. War Leader Kextar, analysis. Can we defeat humanity in open conflict? Kextar studied the data for several minutes before responding. Based on the information provided, a military victory would be unlikely. The humans have 73 vessels similar to the Indomitable, plus hundreds of smaller warships. Our entire capital ship fleet numbers only 12 vessels, and we just lost 11 of them. She brought up a tactical simulation. If we pooled every warship from every Dominion system, we could field perhaps 200 vessels. However, none of them match the human battleships in firepower, defense, or technology. In any direct engagement, we would suffer catastrophic losses. "What about overwhelming numbers?" another counselor asked. "Send everything we have at once." "Surely they cannot defeat 200 ships with 73? "They don't need to defeat all our ships," Kextar replied. "They only need to make the cost of victory unacceptable. According to the data, human weapons can engage targets at extreme ranges. They could destroy dozens of our vessels before we even got close enough to return fire, and their defensive systems appear nearly impenetrable to our current weapons." She highlighted specific sections of the battle footage. "Notice how their point defense lasers intercepted every Krell counterstrike? How their shields didn't even strain under sustained bombardment? This suggests technology significantly beyond our current level. It would take us decades to develop equivalent systems, if we could develop them at all." High Chancellor Vextor turned back to Thexalar. "What do the humans want?" "A 50 light-year exclusion zone around their homeworld," Thexalar replied. "No Krell vessels are permitted within that boundary. Any ship that enters will be destroyed without warning. Any retaliation will be met with total war." Those were Admiral Chen's exact words. "Total war," Vextor repeated quietly. He looked around at the council. We have built the Dominion over 300 years, 47 systems, trillions of citizens. All of it could be destroyed if we choose the wrong path here. High Chancellor, you cannot be considering surrender, Threxall protested. The Dominion has never retreated from any opponent. Our strength comes from others knowing we cannot be defeated. Our strength comes from winning, Vextor corrected sharply. And we cannot win this fight, not now. Perhaps not ever. He stood and walked down to the chamber floor, approaching the holographic display. Look at this vessel. Really look at it. This is not the product of a species that stumbled into advanced technology. This is the work of a civilization that has spent generations preparing for the worst possible threats. Every weapon system is redundant. Every defensive measure is layered. This ship was designed by people who understood warfare at a fundamental level. Vextor turned to face the council. The humans told War Master Thexalar that they spent 10,000 years at war with themselves. Think about what that means. 10,000 years of constant conflict, innovation driven by necessity, every generation learning from the last. While we were conquering primitives and growing complacent, they were perfecting the art of war against opponents who could actually fight back. He gestured at the frozen image of the Indomitable. This is what they built to defend themselves, not to conquer, not to expand. To defend. If this is their defensive posture, imagine what they could do if we gave them a reason to attack. The chamber fell silent again. Several council members exchanged worried glances. I call for a vote, Vextor announced. All in favor of accepting humanity's territorial claims and establishing their 50 light-year exclusion zone as inviolate. One by one, hands rose. Not all of them, but enough. 18 of the 23 council members voted in favor. Motion passed, Vextor declared. As of this moment, human territory is off-limits to all Dominion vessels. Any captain who violates this order will be arrested and tried for endangering the entire Dominion. War Leader Kextar, you will coordinate with our fleet commanders to ensure all ships are aware of the new boundaries. Yes, High Chancellor, Kextar said. Vextor returned his attention to Thexalar. You have done the Dominion a service, War Master, though not the one you intended. You found a threat we didn't know existed, and you brought us information that may have saved our civilization from a catastrophic war. You are dismissed. Thexalar bowed and left the chamber. As he walked through the corridors of the council building, he felt the weight of everything that had happened. He had gone to the human system expecting an easy conquest. Instead, he had found something that terrified him more than anything in his military career. He stopped at a window overlooking the Dominion capital. Millions of Krell went about their daily lives, unaware of how close they had come to disaster. Unaware that somewhere out there, 50 light-years from Earth, humanity waited with their impossible battleships. Thexalar thought about Admiral Chen's final words. Fear is an excellent deterrent. She had been right. He was afraid of humanity, afraid of what they could do, afraid of what they would do if provoked, and fear would keep the Dominion safe. It would keep them away from human space. It would prevent another commander from making the same mistake Thexalar had made. He pressed one hand against the window and whispered to his own reflection. We saw their battleship. Just one ship. And in that moment we understood. They didn't build a fleet to conquer the galaxy. They built a fleet to ensure that if something came for them in the dark, if something threatened their homeworld, that something would regret ever finding them. In the Grand Chamber, the debate continued about how to respond to this new reality. Some wanted to increase military spending to catch up with human technology. Others argued for focusing on the systems they already controlled, making them stronger rather than seeking new conquests. A few suggested attempting diplomatic contact, though Vextor dismissed this quickly. The humans had made their position clear. They wanted to be left alone. The Krell Dominion, for the first time in its 300-year history, had encountered a species that made them choose peace, not out of mercy, but out of survival instinct. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the UHSV Indomitable continued its patrol, watching and waiting. Just one battleship among many, just one piece of humanity's defense, just one reminder that Earth would not fall easily. The stars belonged to many species, but some territories were best left unclaimed.